This week's Shabbos we have two parshas, Parshas Matos and Parshas Masa. In Parshas Matos, the Jewish people exact revenge against the Midianite nation, against Midian. Midian, through the advice of Bilam, had decided to send their young women to the tribe of Shimon to entice them, and after they got them involved, they made them worship idols. Because of this, a terrible punishment was exacted on 24,000 people of the Jewish people. Now, the Jewish people were taking their revenge, their nakama. This was, of course, commanded by Hashem, and therefore the Jewish people went to war against Midian. The pasuk says that there was 1,000 people from each tribe that went to war. What's interesting, though, is that the Torah says this in multiple ways. It says, Elef Lamata, 1,000 people for each tribe. Then again, a second time, Elef Lamata, 1,000 people for each tribe. And then a third time, slightly different, Shnemasar Elef, 12,000 people for the entire nation. Now, why would it say three separate times? So the Medrash says that actually there were 3,000 people from each tribe that fought the war, or that were involved in the campaign of the war. 1,000 of those people actually fought the battle. They physically fought against the Midianites. The second group, they watched over the belongings and possessions of the Jewish people back at their camp. And the third group, that group, they davened. They prayed at the time of the battle. And not only at the time of the battle, at the battle. They were present. They were there at the battle. And while the battle was going on, 1,000 people from each tribe, 12,000 people were praying by the battlefield. Now, the function of this is it's two-pronged. For the people who are davening, how much more meaningful and powerful would it be to pray for the success of a battle, of a campaign, when it's in front of your very eyes? So they were praying with such fervor because they saw their own brethren, the threat that their own brethren faced right now in front of their very eyes. Seeing something is much, much stronger, is much, much more potent than hearing about something. So they were there. The people who fought the war, as they fought the war, imagine them seeing the same amount of troops that they were, people davening, who were praying for their success. So if they won the war, and they did win the war, when they won the war, they wouldn't say, oh, it was our capabilities, our prowess in warfare and our strength. That's the reason why we won the war. They would understand that just as much as their bravery was important, the prayer itself was the reason why they were successful. And for both of them, the people who were praying, the group of people who were praying, who were davening, and the group of people who were actually fighting physically the war, both of them, it was equally important to have the other there. And they both were part of Tzivah Hashem. They both were part of the campaign, of the army. And no less was the person davening part of the army as the person actually fighting the war part of the army. The revenge against Midian was the condition to Moshe's death. Moshe knew that upon the success of the campaign against Midian, he would die. This was the last thing he had to get done before he completed his life. Hashem had informed him. Still, Moshe is excited about fulfilling God's directive, even though he knows that this will mean the end. The Jewish people are much more reluctant. The pasuk indicates that the Jewish people had to be semi-forced into fighting the Midianite war because they knew that Moshe would perish upon the completion of their mission. Now Rashi says that from here we see how precious the shepherds of the Jewish people are. Shepherds meaning their manhigim, the people who guided them, Moshe. Because Moshe previously had said that the Jewish people were complaining so much, in a different episode, were complaining so much that another minute and they're going to stone me. They're going to kill me because I'm not giving them what they want. And Moshe, at that point, seems to be hated by Klal Yisrael, by the Jewish people, But now all of a sudden, when he's about to pass away, the Jewish people are vehement. They will not go to war if it means Moshe dying. Rashi is very strange. Why mention, okay, you could say that you see how precious Moshe was to the Jewish people because they refused to go to war against the Midianites because they knew that Moshe would die. That's a good point. But what is the fact that Moshe had thought at some point before this that the Jewish people would stone him? That shows how precious he is to the Jewish people. That's the question of the week. Have a good Shabbos.